Because look, you go see Bruce Springsteen, you want to hear Born to Run.
Yeah.
But if he wants to play the Ghost of Tom Joad, like acoustic version, you're like, all right, like that's for somebody in the audience. But like, can we not do every show? That's what you're going to do? Because I came for Born to Run. You know, like, so I think sex is the same thing. And pornography, it creates a very stylized, idealized. But, you know, something I've said, which has been very criticized, is I think rom-coms are porn for women. Like this, like love conquers all, and the person changes into this person that love changes them completely, or the woman is like cold and then she finds the one true penis and it changes her whole life.
Vice versa, the guy's a doofus, but she fixes him.
Or he's like a psychotic, like billionaire. I mean, look at 50 Shades of Grey. He's a psychotic billionaire in amazing shape who can't feel love, but he meets this dowdy, typical girl, and suddenly he's vulnerable and loving and cares. And
that's going to get people murdered. Like that movie is going to get people killed.
But I get it. Like, I get that that's what you would find appealing. In practice, it's stylized. It's porn. It's porn. That's not what it looks like. So, yeah, I'm sure there's lots of guys that go out and are like, okay, I can do a passable imitation of Christian Grey. Like, I can do a passable imitation of somebody. But it's not true. Just like, oh, there's a number of women that be like, all right, fuck it. I can act like a porn star for, 20 minutes in bed. No problem. I can do that. But, okay, but is this authentically you? And how long are you going to wear that mask?
Right. Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Right. So the danger of authentically being yourself is that someone might see it and not like it.
And again, you're trying to mitigate risk.
But I would rather, an uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather be loved for who I am than loved for a fiction.
Of course.
So I think that most people.
But in order to be loved for who you are, you have to be willing to be rejected, and you have to make yourself vulnerable and show risk.
And you have to know when you're not being yourself, right? Like, you have to know when are you being authentic.
Which comes back to know who you are, know what you want. And
yeah, most of the time when people come to me and they say like, well, because a lot of times people will come to me who are having marital problems, but they're not quite in the terminal phase yet. Like, they haven't been served with anything, but they're like, this thing's I'm seeing some cracks in it, so I just want to know what my rights and obligations might be. And I appreciate that. And a lot of times people say to me like, oh, do you send those people to marriage counseling? And I actually say, no, the first thing I do is send them to counseling. Like, the first thing they need to do is go figure out what the fuck's going on in their head. Like, because before you start figuring out what's going on in the couple dynamic, like, first figure out what's going on in your head, what you want, what you're afraid of, what your shit is that needs to get unpacked and looked at. Then let's get together and do some kind of couples counseling. Like, in a perfect world, when people are having marital problems, they'd go to individual counseling, figure out what's going on in their own head, then they'd come together and they would talk together about what they've now learned about what they want and what they need. This was the controversial thing that I said on Lex Friedman, where I said, like, if I could wave a wand and do some crazy thing, it would be psilocybin-assisted marriage counseling or psilocybin-assisted divorce mediation, because people would get deeply in touch with what's going on inside them in a way that I think the medicine of psilocybin can help people access. And then they would come together with a heightened sense of empathy and self-awareness and connectivity and realization of their place in the universe and the connectivity of everybody. And they would figure out, do we stay together or do we part in a way that honors our connection to each other and our love for each other?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm a fan of psilocybin-assisted therapies. I actually talked to a psychologist that does psilocybin and ketamine-assisted therapies, and his whole point was like, these substances will give you a three-dimensional view of whatever the problem is that you're dealing with, and you're able to view it without the emotional attachment of that thing.
Amazing.
So now you're not emotionally attached to it, and you're basically able to see the situation as if you were a third party. And so the reason your friend can give you such good advice but can't take his own advice, or you can give such good advice but can't take it, is because you're the emotional attachment and the trauma with what that situation entails.
And there's something about, for those of us that have had those kinds of psychedelic experiences and have experienced plant medicine in that way, not in the like, okay, I'm just gonna like do this and go to a music festival. Like, to see it as a way to sort of strip a lot of the artifice and become very sort of raw and bring yourself, like when you do that under the right guidance, I went to, very recently, I went to Jamaica for a psilocybin-assisted retreat. And it was a therapeutic psilocybin-assisted retreat. And it was a week of therapy, group therapy, then psilocybin experience, then processing and integration and group therapy. And by the end of that week, like the people that attended that with me, we were bonded in a way, like we had been stripped raw by the medicine and by the group processing of what was going on. But I have to tell you, like, it was a transformative experience for everybody who was there. Everybody who was there walked out of that going, wow, that was like a transformative experience. Why? Because all of that pretense, all of that fabrication, all of that performative it's like stripped away and you're brought down to this very vulnerable state. And whether you have like a beautiful experience of understanding the connectivity of things and that we're all part of one thing, only experiencing itself subjectively, and death is an illusion, all the stuff that people report is like a mystical experience, or whether you had a challenging, what used to be called a bad trip, or really what is a challenging experience that like humbles you and brings you back to a place of like, okay, that just humbled me. And now they're going to help me rebuild myself based on something like more real. Like, I think it's an amazing opportunity.